It's really very good to be here with you this afternoon because I have missed celebrating the Eucharist with you. As we conclude the National Vocation Awareness Week, Father William asked me to share my vocation story. Some of you have perhaps heard it already. If you have, you can take a nap. I was born into a middle-class Franco-American family. I had 2 siblings, and we were an extended family as my paternal grandparents lived with us, and my maternal grandmother lived with us for several months a year. As a result, many Sundays were the day relatives came to visit with our elders. Mom and Dad were gracious hosts, and no one left home hungry. It was through their example that I realized that love and service go hand in hand. As I was growing up, I wanted to be a pharmacist like Mr. McCurry, who was a kind and caring man, always greeting us with smiles and twinkling eyes, and had a remedy for all our ills. But God had a different plan. One summer, as I was on a day's retreat with some of my peers and sitting quietly in the chapel, the overwhelming feeling came to me that I was called to become a religious brother, not a priest, nor a pharmacist. There was no voice from heaven. There was no thunder and lightning. But there was that lingering feeling of invitation that would not go away. Finally, after high school and at 17, I entered the La Salette community and served as a brother for 32 years, never looking back in regret. During those years, through no desire of my own, but by invitation, I was called more and more to participate in ministry. Then in 1979, our province decided to open 3 home missions. I asked to be included in the team of 2 priests that was headed to a small mill town in North Carolina to work in peace and justice ministry, and permission was granted. So the 2 of us left to take on the parish that the bishop had assigned us to. After a year or so, one of the priests decided to leave, and so I was named administrator of the parish and was responsible for all parish activities except for the sacramental ministry. I was also involved in the community, cooking a weekly meal at the local halfway house, tutoring in rural schools, and helping wherever and whenever I could. One day, I received a call from a parishioner telling me that Father Leo, who was my confrere, was supposed to say Mass for a group of seniors in her home. He was late, and he was not to be found. So I offered to do a communion service if she wanted, and she said, yes, please. So as I gathered all I needed for the service, glanced at the scriptures, and drove the 25 miles to her home, I rehearsed a little homilette. After the service, we gathered for coffee and dessert, and they asked about the story of my vocation. And so I shared pretty much what I have been sharing with you. And I remember so distinctly someone saying, "Brother, God didn't hit you hard enough on the head the first time." You need to be a priest. You are called to be a priest. Needless to say, I was astounded. And then they went on to explain the reasons behind their declaration. Driving back to the rectory, I decided that since many times before I had heard people ask me why I didn't become a priest, I felt at that moment that I had to settle the question once and for all, because I wasn't getting any younger, So I entered into discernment, and after 2 years, it seemed evident that God was calling me to the priesthood. But being a doubting Thomas, part of my prayer was always the question, God, are you really calling me to the priesthood? I had so many misgivings about being able to preach or teach or fulfill the priestly duties, introverted as I was. Then one night, as I was falling asleep, I asked God the question again, and in the back of my eyelids, I saw the words written in large black letters, I am. I asked again, and the same answer came back, writ larger still in black letters, I am. Finally convinced, I petitioned and received permission to pursue the educated I needed for ordination. After 5 long years of schooling, summer and winter, 32 years ago, I was ordained a priest. So if you have any issues with me or my ministry, you can blame the people of North Carolina. Religious and priestly life, like any state of life, married or single, has its ups and downs, its rewards and challenges, its joys and pleasures, its successes and failures. And I have experienced them all. Through them all, by the grace of God, I have remained faithful to my call, and I pray that God will help me persevere to the very end. These days we are experiencing the change of seasons. Mother Nature is preparing this change. Days are shorter, trees are bare, animals are storing food, others are hunkering down for a long winter's nap. And this is just so that come spring, the earth might burst forth again in the splendor of a new birth. Our Mass readings are also preparing us for the end times as we come to the end of another liturgical year. And we too, as Advent approaches, have hope and joy renewed as we prepare for the event that changed the world, the birth of Jesus. Father William, Father John, and I are also experiencing a change. Father William to new challenges in servant leadership for our La Salette community. Father John being asked to keep the candle burning here. And me, a call to a life with time for deeper prayer and contemplation. You too will be facing changes as you welcome a new ministerial team. Change is good, and God's grace will abound in this change of seasons. I wish to thank you for your many kindnesses and patience with my foibles. I apologize if I have ever offended anyone. It was certainly not my intention. I am so grateful to God for the gift of my vocation. As a religious and as a priest, I have been so blessed to be able to serve God and his church. As I leave, please know that I will carry you in my heart and keep you in my prayers. Say one for me once in a while, please. God bless you all, each and every one.